Hey, I'm Michelle. I'm a senior product designer at 37 Signals. We are in our Cycle 5 cooldown, and I'd like to share what I got up to this week. We work remotely and asynchronously, and I enjoy being able to work from anywhere. I like to bundle a cycle's worth of travels in a check-in. And so Cycle 5 started in Greece, and I headed to Amsterdam for the company meetup. I continued on to Switzerland and then flew to Montreal before making my way back home in Vancouver. We also use automatic check-ins to share what we're going to be working on this week. My plan is to ship the Hey Search Result Improvements project with Pratik, update a page on hey.com, and there's some time for roaming, a chance to fix up some bugs and pick up a quick win or two. To start, the first bug I wanted to look into was this one about Bubble Up and how the time could be an hour early than our default times. Bubble Up is a project I worked on in Cycle 2 with Kevin, so I tagged him on this to see if we could come up with ideas on why this was happening. And we both guessed that it was daylight savings, and indeed it was. So Kevin worked on a fix, and we are good there. Something we're trying to fix in the search results project before we go live are the screen reader regressions we introduced with the new layout. Michael and I have been tweaking what's our expected behavior, where we're at, and where we're stuck. I mentioned Pratik in one of the comments and asked if he can kindly take a look, and we ended up hopping on a Zoom call for about 10 minutes to review it together. We went over what VoiceOver says, my code editor, what I've tried, and where we're currently stuck. So in this case here, we have in the results, and we can inspect element. There's an ARIA hidden set to true and an ARIA label with a date. Now, the assumption was that ARIA hidden would be overriding the label, but that wasn't happening. And we had another case where the ARIA label wasn't announced in full. Pratik and I then took it to Pings, where we discussed ideas on what to try, and he shared a screenshot of what it looks like on his computer. And it was right. We had the label in full where it says filed in, and then the label name, in this case, and we didn't have the date repeating before and after the message content. So that was strange. We chalked it up to a Safari issue, and apparently it's totally fine in Chrome. So what we have is good. QA team also marked our card as done. They finished testing on all platforms. Something we've been having every cooldown is an all hands with the whole company. And so that was on Tuesday morning. As part of roaming, I shared some feedback and an idea for repositioning the chat retention icon. I used Figma to do a quick mock-up. I also saw the customer support team had created a chart and fixed that up in Figma real quick to add a title and some spacing. I sent this over to Jason via ping. In our bugs card table, I am watching our designer top 5 column. And so I was notified when a new card was added. In this case, it was to review and remove lingering references to Basecamp 3, since now we're officially Basecamp 4. I prepped the PR, started testing in beta, and I reached out to Isaac to see if he can review the pull request. Most of it was copy updates, but there were some strings that I had updated, and I'm not sure exactly what it would change and break. So we mentioned Jeff and Jay to help check to see if it's all good on their end. As we get ready to ship search results, I work on an internal announcement post and break it down into 2 parts. There's the first part shipping, which is the new layout. And then next week, we're going to follow that up with the ability to search emails and trash. Then I take a look at mobile. For the first part, the new layout that's going live, it looks like the excerpts here are getting cut off too soon. Ideally, they'd span a little bit wider. I mentioned Jamie just so he's aware that we're shipping with this and we're going to fix it up after. And the second part about trash, I just wanted to make sure that we have this just-in filter and that we're still hiding that trash option. And we are, so we're good there. Pratik wrote up the deployment message to let the team know that it is live. I keep an eye out on Twitter and helps out to see if customers catch anything that we may have missed. Although it was generally pretty quiet, I did find Android customer had an issue, we couldn't reproduce it, and I replied. Next, I browsed our Hey Quick Wins and I picked up a card that was a copy change to update where we had previously say delete to now say trash in our overflow menus so that it's more consistent. On Thursday morning, we have our design team hangout. This one was actually really quick because we didn't share any designs in progress. We were in the cool down. So we had just a quick half-hour catch up and a little chat about what's to come next cycle. I worked on finishing up our references to Basecamp 3 and wrote up a deployment message on what's changed and what might potentially be breaking and how to revert it. Brian then mentioned me on this card that Adrienne had created to note that our new device sign-ins are still saying Basecamp 3. I did not fix that up yet because that lives in Launchpad. I did start a branch and I will need a programmer to help me figure it out. Ollie and Rosa swooped in and made those changes, which was great. And I continued working on the branch. I hadn't deployed Launchpad before, so I was a little bit nervous on how to test it, how it works, and I pinged Rosa. Along the way, I did find some other places that we really needed to update, and I just started noting them in comments in existing cards that we have set up in our bugs. So here's another one I found, the Basecamp logo fails, so I logged that. What's the error? Where is it pointing to? Image is there, but it's not loading. Lewis is on call and he mentioned me in a card where we had an error with some missing files in our asset pipeline. So I started to take a look. Doors and Cloud Files is a project I worked on in cycle 6 of last year, and it's something I continue to maintain. And to wrap up the week, I updated this moving from Gmail to Hey page. Some of the content was outdated since we introduced the ability to send from your Gmail address within Hey. I had images on Figma from when I worked on the updates to Hey onboarding in cycle 3, and I just needed to crop certain sizes and update the text. And I went ahead and deployed that. It's not the typical week where I'm heads down on a cycle project. It's actually been a lot of hopping around, and I end the week having deployed on Hey, Hey.com, Basecamp, and Launchpad, which is fun. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.